Welcome back to Your Best Year 2026, an online retreat delivered by Coaching Minds and our wonderful coaches. And for our final session of today, final session of the summit, for those of you who have joined our hub and are ready to take this further, we do have another session lined up on Zoom that will not be recorded. There will be no replay available. But more about that later on after we've heard from the wonderful Vijaya, our coach Vijaya Gary Sanker, and business leader who is here to talk us through becoming a creature of habit. Vijaya, thank you so much for being with us here today. And I'm really looking forward to what you've got in store. As always, I always love the talks you do at our summits. This is not the first time you're stepping forward for Coaching Minds. So always great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Paul. I'm very excited to be, talking about habits, and it's the place where action happens. And I'm super excited to invite all of you to a wonderful discussion and interaction where all of us will learn from each other.
No, excellent. Thank you for that, Vijaya. And habits is a really interesting area, I think, of growth and development. It's probably the hardest part. I mentioned that in the last session. We had the wonderful visualization exercise from Cindy. We started to look at investing in our future self. And a few questions from that we can ask is, how can I be a better leader? How can we be a better organization? How can I be a better parent, a better partner? We're looking at the how and who we become. But in order to reach our goals and who we need to become, we need to have habits in place. And Ed mentioned this, I think, yesterday in his systems in place that allow us to keep that consistency, to make our goals and our future self a reality. So looking forward to seeing how all this is tied in nicely to a nice conclusion on habits, Vijaya. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and especially how can we become a better coach? All of us are in the learning journey.
How did I miss that one off? How do we be a better coach? Thank you for putting that in. Wonderful. So on that note, Vijay, I'm going to hand it over to you. We've got a couple of people tuned in. Adele saying hello. Adele, it's wonderful to see you here again. And yeah, over to you, Vijay.
Yeah, wonderful. So we'll just, move on to the next slide, where we are going to be talking about becoming a creature of habit, and we are going to be building about, on the Atomic Habits by James Clear. There are a lot of models out there to translate your goals into actionable insights and habits. And today we are going to be talking about some of the models and some of the areas that he talks about, because I feel that this is one of the easiest areas to practice. It may look a little theoretical, but it's easy to break it down into smaller things, and it just flows seamlessly into your life. And this book is something that we've spoken in the past in the book club, and I think many of us who've been a part of at least Coaching Minds have been practicing James Clear's techniques, and it has been successful to a certain extent. So we'll be talking about that today. Next slide, please.
No, brilliant. I just want to invite, if anybody has read the book, please let us know. Let us know if you read it, or if this is the first time you're hearing about Atomic Habits by James Clear. He is definitely a leader in that area.
And extending from what we really spoke about in the last, session by, Cindy, is who do we become? So most of the times when we talk about goals and when we talk about habits, we generally talk about outcomes. What is the outcome that we want to achieve? I want to lose X kilos of weight. I want to maybe at least complete some learning course. I want to do this. So we always talk about the outcome. And goal setting in itself is driven by the outcome. In the world of ROI and outcome, what's the return on investment, productivity, everything. And in the world of metrics, generally, outcome is what defines success. And that's how we also saw reflection of that and, discussions about it in the first session that we had on success yesterday. That, is outcome all about just the ultimate result? And is it just about the, final, at least KPI or metric? And what we are going to understand, and through all the sessions that we've had in the last few days, at least couple of days, this entire weekend that we've all invested in ourselves. Is, outcome is one aspect of it. I think that's the result, and it happens, as an outcome. But the process that uh, takes us to that outcome is what James Clear, focuses about. And we started yesterday with the why. We started by visualizing, in James' session, and then we talked about values, aligning who we want to become, or that identity with our values. And then we had multiple sessions today that we were able to take it forward, in terms of understanding goals, understanding the identity, investing in our at least future self. So what I'm welcoming all of you, or inviting all of you to think about, is identity based habits. So we are going to be tweaking the verbiage, because what we speak about, or the verbiage that we use, really matters. Our thoughts, the way we action our thoughts, and the way it propels us, is all about what we think internally. There is an inner voice, there is an inner critic that we have. So we are going to be talking about the identity based habits, which goes internal, inward to outward. And in all the sessions, we understood that this entire growth journey is an internal driven process, or it is most effective when we drive it internally, rather than when it is externally driven. And thoughts about that, Paul? Do you agree? Do you think it's relevant, or is there some tweaks that we need to make to all of it? Because all of our lives are different, and every model that we understand or read has to be tweaked to our realistic conditions.
And I think it's contextual. I think anything we're doing in terms of personal growth, growing, looking out, it's a mix of external, internal, depends where we are. We talked about realism today as well in Carly's session about, and in Cindy's session as well, about having that realistic view. And sometimes we can fall into the habit of picking up habits that might not be suitable for us because we're not at a stage to be able to adopt that habit. We might be picking up a book and trying to take concepts that won't work for us in that concept. They might sound great and look great, but realistically, are they going to help with our internal systems and where we are right now? So I really believe it's contextual. There's times to look outwards and there's times to look within. And it's finding that balance between the both.
And you bring up such a wonderful point, Paul, because yesterday also we spoke about balance when we were talking about values. And sometimes I agree, few things need to be goal driven, KPI driven, and that's where we find momentum, and that's where we find acceleration, and that's where we are able to move to the level that we are in, and we can, jump to the next level, right? That slope happens, and we are able to upscale ourselves or up level ourselves to the next level, and then it changes. So definitely, that is a key aspect. And if everything comes together, from your environment to your habits to your routines, and if everything is, generally or genuinely falling in place, say 80-90% of the times, even if things are delayed, you're able to achieve that. Without that metric, maybe we will all be lost, right? We will all start delaying things. And I really like the smarter goals that you explained yesterday, which talks about being definitely you know uh, uh, the enthusiasm or the joy that is required to achieve that, and the rewards for it as well. So definitely all of this depends. And we also spoke about days when we may be struggling internally, right? Maybe that day just showing up, getting up, and showing up itself is a challenge. So and that day maybe the internalization of everything that you've done on days when you were great, right, when everything was falling in place, I think that helps to propel and helps us um, navigate through those days when it's a little more challenging, right? So definitely internalizing and externalizing. The reason I think we talk internal is most of it is in our control, or you are able to shape it, rather than thinking that something external happened and then going into that victim loop, that something external happened, hence I could not achieve it. So I think that's also one of the reasons why we talk about identity and how we can internalize it. If that is your identity, most of the times that inner self talk will help you live by that identity. And that is why sometimes introducing yourself also, though we would have done so many things, becomes a challenge, because I think it talks about identity.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Paul?
No, it does. It becomes difficult in terms of identity. And I wanted to go back to an interesting point you mentioned earlier on, which I think is suitable to habits as well. You've mentioned ROI a lot, return on investment. And I really like the concept. I can't remember off the top of my head who developed this concept that sits along where we cannot quantify something to a return on investment. So they look at what's known as ROE, which is a return on expectations. And I think when you were talking about, the different levels, the different areas that we are in our life in terms of success, what we're working to, some days, if we've got depression, if we're really struggling, if we're in a dark place, some days those get, like Donna mentioned yesterday, and a couple of people in the conversation mentioned, just getting out of bed, just having a shower. That is that's success, and it's looking at not the ROI there, but the return expectations. What expectations are we setting for ourselves, and how do we meet those expectations rather than the actual return on investment? So I think it's good to have a perspective and a view on both angles as we go through looking at identity-based habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's so wonderful. And that's where I think this entire retreat, all these conversations, different aspects that not only we read, we experience, sharing all of that. And then, the audiences who are watching it later through their comments, when they share, there is so much that we can do in terms of collective learning. I think that also shapes our identity, right? And all of this is, sort of positive and at least constructive for us to be able to take it forward rather than going randomly and just reading anywhere and anything. I think anything out of experience is always mm, again an extension of the identity what we've experienced. So just moving on, because now that we've established that we want to do the identity based habits, and there is some portion that we want to think in terms of identity, not just an outcome. So I think this is a good aspect to look at. What does it mean on a day to day basis? Because ultimately it's the daily actions that we take that lead us to reaffirming our identity, right? Helping us become more confident, right? Reaffirming our identity as well as maybe leading to the outcome. So there is this lovely model that talks about how is habit internalized, or what do we do out of, say, um, not just intentionally, but at least subconsciously. What do we do, right? So whenever we have a cue, like what initiates that behavior, we then generally have a craving. So for example, like talking about myself, some I have a sweet tooth. So sometimes the cue is maybe uh, I'm just upset, or I just need something, and I just have that urge to have something sweet, right? So that's maybe the cue that talks about, like, what is the trigger that leads to that behavior, and then what is that motivational force that is driving it, like what's the craving. So the craving is to reach out for that piece of sweet, and then I really want to have it, and the response is really having that sweet. Sometimes at home I know there is a sweet lying here, there, or in some box, and then I'll go and search for that box and try to find the actual thought or the action that I'm taking, and maybe the reward is, okay, now that I'm content. And sometimes it's not just content, it's one more piece, just telling myself maybe one more piece. So I think this entire habit loop that James Clear talks about, from the cue, craving, response and reward, is something that propels us, and it is something that we've internalized as a human. In our behavior patterns, all of us have internalized it over time. Do you have any examples that you'd like to share, Paul?
Yeah, and I just want to elaborate what you're saying there, Vijay, because these habit loops are happening all the time, consciously and subconsciously. And I think as an example, good adverts have got this nailed. They give you the cue to make you want the craving. So, when you see a McDonald's picture on the TV and they've got a bit, it's giving you a cue that, a nice burger would be great. And it's trying to make the craving through the advert. So then at some point you're going to think that weekend, let's nip to McDonald's, let's go and get a burger or something like that. But adverts are designed to do that for us, to look at that cue, make that craving, and then respond. The one that I talk about, I'm not a smoker, but another one's a smoker. Another way, if you're a smoker in the audience, or these days everybody's vaping, if you're a vapor, you get that cue, you see a vape, or you encounter a stressful situation, and then you get a craving for a bit of a vape or for a cigarette. So you take that craving, you respond, you take your puffs, and then you're rewarded with that that release, that dopamine or whatever it is that smoking gives you at that point. And I think social media is the same habit now. When we get a message through a phone, when we're getting notifications through a phone, again, the habit loop is in play again. So the important point I want to mention there, Vijay, is this is happening consciously and subconsciously. We might just not be aware of where these habit loops actually exist.
Yeah, and it's amazing to think how phone has become an integral part of every life. In the last, I would say, 8 9 years, maybe a decade. Uh, we did Many of us have lived without a phone for maybe the initial few years of our life, and today it's become such an integral part of our life. I mean, if I think that I should be away from the phone an entire day, unless the network is not there, it's a very very difficult thing to let go, even if you want to do a at least digital detox. And the way you say, it's just become an integral part of our life and nobody even realized it, and now it's controlling us in such a way that even when we want to eat or when we're doing something, we just think, okay, let me catch up. Really nothing earth shattering is going to happen if you don't look at the phone, or if you don't catch up in the 15 minutes that you're eating. If you just let your body understand what you're eating and enjoy that meal, that meal that we all work towards and work for, I think, nothing earth shattering is really going to happen, unless I understand if there's an emergency or if you're on call or something like that, right? But on normal days, nothing is really going to happen if you don't look at the phone that 15 minutes.
And if it's an
So,
emergency, they can call you. Now, a call is very different from a message. So, and I just, before we move on, which I just want to invite the audience as well. Where have you seen habit loops in play, either consciously or subconsciously? Let us know what habit loops shape your life right now.
and and that is very very important. We'd like to hear from you because I feel all of us, this is an integral part of all of our lives, right? Like Paul mentioned, intentionally or unintentionally, just consciously, subconsciously, all of us are doing it, and it happens just as a rhythm. Like breathing, habits have become a part of our life. This entire habit loop has become a part of our life, and that's how it goes. And in this conversation, right, it's sometimes easy to let go of the comments and to but we'd love to hear from you, all of you who are tuned in. Please share, and we would love to understand what is your thoughts on it, this topic, as we move on. And this is behavior change. I think one of the toughest things to do, easier said than done, is sometimes I have tried so many times and failed, correct? And I'm sure many of us have been through the same thing. uh, and the beauty of all of this, or this entire session, over the last 2 days, it's all awareness. I think it's awareness, and now we are talking about implementing that awareness, right? We are aware, we've understood that intentional focus matters and intentionality plays an important part, and now we are talking about implementation. So I think this is a nice way to really understand how we can bring things to action. And very very interesting thing he says, and if you want to create a good habit, and some of these, if you read, it looks so natural, right? It's obvious, it's just common sense. It's nothing different that he's really talking about, right? It's just common sense that we all know. Yes, if you want to create a good habit, it has to become obvious, it has to become a part of you, right? And make it attractive, something. There's a reason it's not a part of your daily routine today. There's a reason that's not a habit today. There is something that's blocking it from becoming your daily routine. So what is it, right? Can we make it attractive? Can we make it easy? Can we make it magnetic, that we're just pulled towards it, right? And of course, once we do that habit, can we make it, yes, at least contentment and that satisfaction within that, yes, today for once or this time, I've been able to do it. And then it has to become a rhythm, like breathing. The way I said, phone has become an integral part of us. So if you really reflect, how did that phone become so important in your life? Like, it's like second nature to us. How did that phone become so important to us, right? So if any of the good habits have to become second nature to us, how do we make that? And in one of the sessions, I think, Paul, you mentioned it, that things have to become non-negotiable. So I think that is a very important aspect, that you think that it's a mandate, it's not an option, it's a mandate, and it has to become non-negotiable. So how important is it? And that again goes back to values, that again goes back to aligning the entire thing. And the reverse of all of this, right? If you want to break something, if I have to break that sweet craving, the craving can happen, and I have to make it, the time that I feel that craving, I have to go back and analyze, why is it that I'm having this sweet craving? Like, what's the root cause? What is that thing that is spiking the stress or things like that? Can I deal that? Can a smile be as sweet? Can I go see the mirror and see myself smile, and can that be as sweet as the sweet that tastes sweet? So I think, how can I make it, definitely the sweet itself, that at least physical entity, how can I make it invisible, knowing what I know in terms of calories, and that it's not good for me, and etc. Can I make it unattractive? Can I make it difficult? Next time I go grocery shopping, can I not go to the sweet aisle, right? Can I make it difficult? Can I ensure it's not there in a very accessible way at home? And at times, can I make it unsatisfying, that if I reach out to it, maybe I have to walk a little more, or I have to exercise a little more, or I just said in the last session, learn to say no. So I think I have to learn to say no to all of these cravings, which I know is something that I should lessen, or maybe the quantity. It's hard to say that I can just stop, right? It's not a switch. I cannot just switch it off on a given day. So how can I lessen it? Maybe what are your thoughts? Have you ever experienced anything like this, both for a good habit as well as a bad habit? And
So,
of
so what,
course, if you're seeing the comments, please bring them up, Paul. You know,
yeah, no, so I'll bring in some comments, and I want to come back to a couple of points there. Cindy's saying coffee habit. She has a habit of coffee. I'm sure many of us tuned in do. Vijay, do you drink a lot of coffee, or?
I do, I do.
Same. Identifying habits pick up from others and external distractions. I reflect on weekly. Well done, Adele. Adele's saying she's replaced reels with time spent reading as well. And what is interesting, you're sharing that, Vijaya, there. I think one of the hardest parts for you to break these 4 stages of behavior change down, I think the hardest part is the craving. Because if we actually use the craving as an example, right, if we look at a bad habit, it can show you how much willpower you actually have, how much you want to make that change. So, for example, for you and your sweet tooth, I used to have a sweet tooth. I don't have so much right now, but the easiest thing to do to make it invisible is don't buy sweets. Get every sweet thing you've got out of your house, so it's difficult for you to get. But this is where your willpower will come in, because if your craving's big enough, you won't jump in the car and run down to the supermarket or run down to the gym to do the gym. But if you're craving that chocolate, you will jump in that car. If you don't have it in your house, you'll jump in that car, you'll drive down and you'll get that chocolate. Or you'll walk to the corner shop or wherever you have access to that, because the craving is really strong. So I think when it comes to these 4 stages, the craving piece is hard. We've got to develop and motivate ourselves to crave the new habits that we want, and to lose those cravings of the bad habits we want to break. The rest of it's all planning and preparation. It's the craving, I think, from my experience, which becomes the hardest.
Yeah, I completely agree. And how do you replace it with something that's good? As I spoke to you, I just came up with a smile, but I don't know. Next time I have to appreciate my smile and say, that's the replacement for the sweet, which I agreed upon, in this session. But moving on. So definitely, we have to change the behavior, and easier said than done, as I said. But then it's important, right, for us to get to where we want to go, even through all the sessions that we are understood, right? Even if the goals are aligned to our values, it becomes our new identity. It isn't easy to just get it there, right? If I could just add a new habit, the easiest way we'll say is, I don't have time. I think that's the first answer that all of us will hear our inner voice say is, for me to say, if I say I'm healthy, if that's the identity I want to tell myself, or I've trained my mind to tell, and that's the self-talk I've had, and I'm writing it down and I'm saying I'm healthy. And to become healthy, I know internally one is the sweets, but I know one is exercise as well. So what's the easiest answer I will just come up with? I'll say, I don't have time. right? Or if I know that meditation is good for me because I tend to get stressed easily, or I tend to get worked up easily, and I tend to react to situations, and that's where meditation or reading a book is going to calm me down, or deep breathing or breathing. If that's the identity, if that's my identity, that I want, I'm calm, I'm a calm person. And then to uh, maintain that identity, or to become that identity, this is what I need to do. What is the easiest answer my brain or my that block is going to give me? That I don't have time to meditate. I don't have 15 minutes or 20 minutes in a day to meditate. If I had, I would have done it all time. Every year I try to do it, every so often I try to do it. I would have done it by now, right? So I think that's where this concept of habit stacking really is useful. Given that I drink a lot of coffee, like we saw in the comments, after the current habit, I build a new habit, or sometimes we can tweak it, because it's easier after drinking coffee not to meditate, right? Not to breathe, deeply. So we can reverse it, maybe for us, when the habit becomes very difficult, that after I meditate for 5 minutes, I will have that coffee. So maybe that's a better motivator for me. I know that I want that coffee badly. I'm craving for that coffee. So, I will habit stack such that I do the new habit prior to that. And, I will do it. This is, as I'm talking, I'm just tweaking it to ensure that I hold myself accountable. Only then I will drink that coffee. Have you ever, thought about that? Maybe, Paul.
Yeah, no. So open to the audience as well. Now it's interesting because there's different ways. It depends on the time of day that you're doing this habits as well. I think we need to take that into when we've actually, he says, where do we actually find time? And one thing for me now, I'm a bit of a secret gamer. I don't share this a lot. I like to game. I don't do it a lot. But what I did is I couldn't get up in the morning to go for a jog and do my exercise. Just I'm not a morning person. I do get up early to work, but I'm normally a bit groggy when I force myself to get up. And force myself, I'm thinking about going for a jog an hour earlier than what I normally get up, doesn't really work. So what I did was I started with something that I actually enjoy that gets me out of bed. So the first thing I do in the morning is I make a coffee in the first half an hour, and it's really early. I do a little bit of gaming, I have my coffee, and once I've finished that, I've disciplined myself to stop, and then I go for my jog or to do my exercise or to do my workout at that point. But later on in the day, I'm like you. So if it's meditation or reading, generally you can put some habits together. So if you're trying to get in the habit of reading, then take your book to the coffee shop. Read your book whilst you're having a coffee, have the reward and the satisfaction at the same time if you're really struggling to read. I talked about earlier on going out in nature, listen to audibles. You can stack the two and do something you really enjoy with something you dislike together. It doesn't have to be one after the other, but there is times, if I have to work out on an evening because I've got to travel somewhere, so I'm busy during the morning, I've got to go somewhere, I will give myself the reward after I've done the workout and flip it around. So I think it depends on the day and what we can put in.
No, such a wonderful example. I totally agree, Paul, because I'm also not a morning person. So definitely, I think there having that coffee is going to wake me up, and that is going to be my, reward to be able to create the new habit. And while, as mentioned, while we are theoretically talking this, I understand how difficult it is for us to inculcate these new habits in us, right? It is, my identity, it's easier to tell myself, yes, I'm going to be healthy, right? But that identity change leading to actionable change on a daily basis as a rhythm till it becomes a habit, or till it becomes an integral part of us, I think that is the real journey. And the point is, how sustainable is that journey once you go into that journey, right? If you've had a break, if I've been ill for say 5 days, 6 days, or 10 days, I've not been able to do that, how do I get back on track? I think that bounce back is also very important. And this brings up the other aspect of willpower that you said. Sometimes willpower is not just getting started. Willpower is also how do you sustain it, and, how do you first integrate it into your life till it becomes a part of you. And willpower is also sustaining and bouncing back when things do not go as per your plan, right? Something happens. So how do you bounce back, and how do you, get back on track? Do you feel the same, Paul?
Yeah, no, I do, and I think that goes back to what I mentioned about craving. I think sustainability comes at that craving piece. I think it's easy for us to make it obvious, to make it simple, to make it rewarding. We can put that in place. But I'm sure if you've experienced any habit that you didn't want to adopt, that you're new to, that actually becomes a craving. I get a craving for workouts. Like if my body hasn't done a workout that day, I feel like I need it. I never used to have that feeling back in the day. So there's a point, I think, because we talk about how many days do you need before habit becomes natural for us. Sometimes it's 15 days, sometimes it's 21. People are saying it's 30. But for me, I feel it's at the point when it becomes a craving. When you've made that switch from it being something you're forcing yourself to do to something that your body feels like or your mind feels like you need to do, it becomes a conscious habit. And that's when the sustainability peaks in. I think sometimes we have a risk of, as we're working towards that, we get so close to that point of craving and give up that it feels like we're starting from scratch again. So that's when we get I think it was in Carly's session where we started talking about that restarting and restarting and restarting again. Yeah, if that
No,
makes sense there.
yeah, and I completely agree. Please bring in any comments that are coming in. We both can tend to become conversational.
Yeah, we can talk for hours, no? But yeah. So yeah, so Cindy's saying breaking the sweet habit. I try by not having it available in the house, so the effort to get the sweets isn't worth it. And I love that, Cindy. Going back to what Vijay was saying. Savina saying she scrolls reels. Jane saying she's guilty of the I don't have time trap.
I think we all are.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
all are.
Reward system, reflection point. Does your habit give false rewards? Good reflective question, Adele. We'll come back to that later. I'm going to start that to come back in terms of the fake rewards. Thank you for that question, Adele.
Yeah, and I like it. I think with awareness and inner work, and when we work on ourselves regularly, Paul, I completely hear you, and I have felt that too. Like when maybe when I don't meditate, or when I don't give time for myself for a longer time, and it gets to the breaking point that it's totally on my nerves, and I know that this time I have to do it, otherwise it's not good, it's really not good for me, or I don't like the person I've become because I'm not doing that healing, or that inner work, or that self healing, or giving time to that meditation, because it's just accumulating, right? Something within me is accumulating over days, and that I know that meditation is going to reverse it, or it's going to ease it. I think when I don't like the identity I've become because of this, not doing the habit, or not doing what I want to do, I think that is also a craving. And then I tend to get back on track. I tend to say, no, I need to give that time for meditation and get back on track. I remember earlier, once you said, are you at least meditating now? And so I think that's the answer. As we grow old and as we learn a lot more, this is what happens, the way you are telling.
Indeed.
Yeah. So quickly moving on, at least Keystone habits, just to the previous slide.
Right. So,
Yes, no worries. Just the previous slide for the ketone habits. This is exactly what we spoke. He's just labeled it as the keystone habit. These are those small habits, or those habits that are going to create ripple effect across your life. Yeah, and they're going to be, cascading. It will be that domino effect across your life. So identify that one or two keystone habits. I think exercise, or reading, meditating, that time for self, where you're just giving that time for yourself, is important. I would love to know the keystone habits for all of you, who are like in the session with us, who are, please share your at least keystone habits. Paul, yours?
so I think one of the keystone habits for me is reading. Reading to grow, develop. Reading, working out, and meditating. I think are my key three ones.
Yeah, I think writing poetry is mine. One of mine. Definitely meditation is what I want to get to. Exercise and walking and meditation, but writing is one of my I think keystone habits for the past 12 years. It's just anchored me, and it's changed me to be a better person. And that's the beauty of it. This keystone habit, once we understand it, once we adopt it, it helps us improve, and it helps ease this entire journey of self discovery and learning, to be a better person. Quickly moving on to the next slide.
Yeah.
So I think the most important aspect is the design phase, right? I mean, the design as well as the action phase, right? How do we plan? How do we design these things into our daily lives? And how do we make it in an actionable format? Action that is easy to absorb into our presumably busy lives, right? We're all busy. We're all, doing our best. So, of course, identifying that keystone habit, it starts with awareness. It's start small is what I'd say. One keystone habit that really helps you, and simple routine. How can you just integrate into your life, and it becomes your identity. That becomes your affirmation. You're reaffirming it, again and again. So that's what really helps us, and definitely. Many people try to keep it private. They hold themselves accountable, or they just share it with very few people. They feel that when it's shared with very few people, they are able to find success with it. And some like to declare it, some like to share it broadly, maybe to an accountable group, or even to everyone they know, so that they can set that expectation, right? Sometimes what happens is everybody requires your time. So then if you share it with family, your friends, or your close people who are going to reach out to you, if you say this 15 minutes is for me, for my walk or my reading or my meditation, then everybody knows generally that 15 minutes you're not available. So things seem to work around that. Really, if we want to, we will be able to find most days when we are able to work around things. And maybe that declaration helps some people, right? I want to go for my walk. So everyone in the family knows that I want to go for my walk. Like in this session, everyone in the family or in around me, everybody important to me knows that this 1 hour, I'm going to be in this session. So then the world sort of revolves around it. Everybody has helped me or supported me in achieving this. So I think that declaration helps in the support. They become your support system, right? And then of course, tracking it as much as you can on a daily basis, till it becomes an integral part of you. Like Paul mentioned, sometimes it's 15 days, sometimes it's 30, and sometimes how do you reward yourself? Just going back and looking at it visually on a board and saying yes, I met the goal, is also some, there is a level of contentment and satisfaction. Yesterday someone asked what is the alternate word for success. So I think that alternate word for success could be visually seeing that yes, those small steps matter, right? You are taking those small steps and they do matter to you, right? So habit blueprinting is very, very important, because this first, the entire design phase asks you for clarity. It pushes you towards clarity, right? And the entire action phase pushes you towards consistency and implementation. Paul, any thoughts on this?
Brilliant. Now, you shared lots of information there. I'm just thinking back because I know I'm trying to remember the actual diagram. There's a diagram at the front of that book that shows these small incremental steps that you're sharing. That if we just started off by improving 0.01% a day over the space of 365 days, how much growth we would actually show. So I really love that you've blended that in terms of success being around these incremental 0. I think it is 0.01 or maybe 0.1% every single day. Brilliant. We've
Yeah.
got a couple of comments coming in as well. So, Cindy saying, recognize that a habit can graduate into an addiction, nicotine, sugar, phone. That's important. We need to catch that early on, because when it does become that state of addiction, it becomes very, very difficult to break. We're at the point where we actually might need professional help to support with the breaking of addiction. Nadal's saying her 3 habits are meditation, reflecting, and learning from various media.
Yeah, I think that is where this reflection, I think it doesn't say, but an outcome of the habit tracker is also reflection. I think not just for good habits, this is something that we can do for habits that we want to avoid as well, right? The reflective exercise. What drives me? What are the habits that I do on a daily basis? Maybe a reflective exercise once in 15 days, when we try to understand the patterns of life and what has led to. Interestingly, earlier, all of sometimes I just think back, and all of the festivals that are integrated into our culture are generally the times when we are supposed to say have something sweet. That's how the entire family used to come together and we used to have a sweet. Now sweet has become so accessible, right, and sometimes so affordable as well. It's great that we're all doing well and it's become affordable, but then it becomes a part of you. Okay, maybe just one today and just maybe one tomorrow, and sometimes that one today can become 3 or 4 times in a day. If someone just offers you a box of sweets and you just say, okay, this is just a small piece that I'm taking in today, right? Maybe that happens, and then you come back home and then you want to have something, and then there is a sweet available and you have it. Or you're just walking down the street and then there's a sweet available and you just buy it and you say it's just nothing, it's just a small piece. But how much are you accumulating? So I think looking at our expenses pattern, looking at our habits pattern, that pattern is what will help us identify both the habits that we want to sustain and carry forward, and the habits that we need to be aware of and maybe uh, lessen a little over time, so that we are able to overcome it. Again, as I said, it's not a switch on off. At least I've not been able to switch on off something that's become so strong a craving for me and an integral part of me.
I think that's a really valid point there, Vijay, that these incremental steps actually work the other way when we're trying to let go of a bad habit. So it's not just cutting it out completely, but how do you take those small steps to wind down? Even if something as simple as getting out of bed as well. How do you just, if you want to get up 2 hours earlier, we'll start off with just getting up 10 minutes earlier, then 20, and then 30, and just those small steps to build it in. These incremental steps are really important.
Yeah. So now that we've done all of this, we'll quickly go into the workbook, which just talks about these 4 or 5 aspects, such that all of us can share. And we will just quickly talk about one thing that we want to do and what we want to take. I understand that it's difficult. All of us are on spot, but Paul and I will also try to share. I'm signing up for him, but Paul and I will also try to share, and then we will try to take it forward. Definitely one keystone habit, that's the first thing that we talked in the design phase, right? What is that one keystone habit that we want to inculcate? As much as I have mentioned meditation, I haven't got to doing it every day. I think yoga and meditation will be the keystone habits that I really, really want to integrate into my life. Paul?
Yeah, so I'm actually happy with the habits that I've implemented. I'm working on breaking habits at the moment. So getting to bed late is one that I'm trying to break, so I have more energy when I get up in the morning. So, but I'm happy in place where I am with my keystone habits right now. I've really worked. I did this work about 3 months ago because I'd let a lot of this slip, and I kind of back in the habit now. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think sleeping early is also one habit, because you want to break that habit of waking up late, and someday your body is going to say no. If you always sleep late and get up early, I think it's not going to work out, right? Someday it will tell you, no, that's it, I'm not going to obey you today. So we'd love to know from all of you who are in the session, and everyone who's watching it later. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to learn from you. As I said, all of your habits, sometimes we don't even realize that we need this habit, or we just feel that's normal, right? That's okay. So hearing Paul say that he wants to wake up early and sleep early, hence also makes me feel that I need to do it as well. I'm very, very bad at that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I think the next question is, why is this habit important to you right now? It's important to me because I am an emotional person. I tend to get worked up easily at times, and that seems to accumulate. If I don't find a way to release it or ground myself, or release that stress within me. Generally, it tends to show up as not being well, like falling ill. So I think that is one thing. And I have seen whenever I try to meditate or do some yoga, both mentally and physically, I am at a better place to be able to take on the next set of challenges or whatever comes my way. and journaling is another aspect of it. So all of this that helps me release whatever is pent up in my system, which I'm not able to share vocally. I think that's why this habit is important to me. Paul?
Brilliant. I'm actually going to bring some, before I talk about mine briefly, I'm just going to bring in some comments because we've got some. So Jane is saying that she's going to start reading 5 pages a day. Cindy's saying she's loving the consistent of small steps. Ed is saying that he's a 5:30 to 6 a.m. riser, so he has a habit of to be in bed with no TV or electronics by by the latest 10:30 p.m. That's great, Ed, fantastic. So yeah, lots of good stuff coming in. I don't know if there's anything you want to share back to the audience, Vijaya, on that.
No, wonderful and so nice to see. And I'd love to hear, Ed, what is your at least keystone habit that you are working towards, and definitely why is that important to you? In fact, for all of you, right? Why is it important to you? And thank you for sharing. This, as I said, it helps us also reflect when we are hearing this from our very own, at least, community, and coaches who are doing things right and they've accomplished it. It makes me feel that it's possible.
It is. And I'm going to have to revisit all this. My habits just go to pot when I move back to Colombia. So I have to readjust. I have to use this exercise that you're sharing today twice every year when I'm going from the UK to Colombia. So there's times when we need to reset, refocus. It goes back to what we said at the very beginning, that no matter when you find this is a useful exercise. It's not something you do once. It's something you keep in your back pocket for when you need it, or when we need it.
So, Paul, why is this habit important to you? Waking up early.
Not waking up early, sorry, going to bed early.
Yeah, going to bed early to wake up early.
Yeah, no. So I still wake up early. I'm just feeling drained. It affects my energy, and eventually, if I continue this level, it's going to affect my health. I've seen this before, so I need to start to wind down earlier, get to bed earlier, just to improve my health and my sleep. Yeah.
Perfectly. So step 2, I think, identify the simple routine, like what's the habit stacking formula that will help us get there. So for me, I think the habit stacking that I should do is maybe before my coffee, in the evening when I come back from work, I tend to reach for my coffee. As soon as I'm back home, I need that coffee, right? Before that, I have to slow down and maybe just meditate for 5 minutes, time box it, meditate for 5 minutes. I don't think I'll be able to meditate longer than that to hold off the coffee. But definitely, I can start, with 5 minutes, and then maybe during my travel time when I'm in a place where I don't need to do that during my travel, maybe I can meditate. So not do yoga, but maybe meditate, and then after my coffee, maybe hopefully do the yoga. I don't know how it's going to work out. I have to try it out.
Yeah, and I
Paul?
see what works for you now. So I'm just going to come back to comments. So lots of people are sharing things again, just to bring the audience in. Reflection, understanding other points of views, respectively, even if I don't agree. Brilliant, Donna. Thank you for sharing that. Ed's habit that he has is I try to read 30 minutes each day. And the habit that he wants to break is he's trying to break is not going to the gym. So working on that in 2026, spending more time leaning into going to the gym. Wonderful stuff, Ed. And Adele's also saying to reestablish balance and create further growth. Sabina's saying yoga and reading. And there's lots more stuff coming through. So thank you. Keep the comments coming in, guys. We will read these and come up a little bit later on. But in terms of my formula, I think because I'm trying to break that habit of going to bed late, I think it's after I've turned my laptop off for dinner, not to go back and put my laptop back on, because that's what keeps me awake late. But when I'm having dinner, it's like, I forgot to do this, I forgot to do that. I have to do it today. Where I actually tell myself, what's going to be the biggest difference between if I do it now and I do it tomorrow morning? So I think that's the habit that I need to, it's not really a habit stack, but when I need to think how I do that, the mindset.
Yeah, I think that's lovely, right? After your laptop is closed and dinner, and hopefully you have a dinner time that is more or less, during the same time each day. After that, you have to say, like we said, nothing maybe earth shattering will happen if you haven't done it by that time. Maybe really nothing earth shattering is going to happen if you don't do it till the next day. right? And
Yeah.
you're able to wind off and sleep a little early, relax a little your mind, and not look at the blue screen again, and then unwind. So that is such a beautiful thing. I think that's something that I need to do too. I'm really, really bad at it. I tend to go on and on and on, knowing this is also important, that's also important, and then finally my sleep is what is always compromised, and eventually my health. That's what we both are in fact saying. We are both
Yeah.
similar in that way.
We are. We are indeed.
Yeah. So moving on to the next part of the exercise, and I love how everyone is, sharing the comments, and they are, sharing. It's really engaging, and it keeps us thinking as well as we are just talking. Otherwise, it is this is what I feel, and this is it. Like it helps me think through a little as well. And the third aspect of the design was definitely your identity change. And I think for me, it will help me become a calmer person. It will help me not take things, or not get worked up over things that people say, people expect of me. I tend to sometimes react harshly on myself. I think it'll help me become a calmer and a more compassionate person towards myself. So that's the identity that I want to build. I want to be a calm uh, and compassionate person towards myself. Yeah. Paul.
I think for me, in terms of the identity, it links nicely to Ed's session yesterday, and the word I took away for my value, which is balance. It allows me to become a more balanced and energized person, which is what I'm striving to this year.
Anyone in the comments, whoever is sharing how this will help them shape their identity, their at least keystone habits?
Yeah, then
Paul.
while we're waiting for that to come through, because there's a bit of a lag with the comments, and bring in some of the why it's important comments that came in earlier. So Jane is saying it's important to me as it helps in my personal development and growth. It also helps with my creativity. Brilliant, Jane. Serena said it's important to me because yoga helps me to keep my body fit, and reading will help me broaden my knowledge. Brilliant stuff. And Cindy saying stretching first thing in the morning instead of staying in bed or rushing around. Important to me for overall health and calmer mind. So really great stuff. And let's bring in a comment about habit stacking as well. He's saying some basics habit stacking I've been doing again after reading Atomic Habits. Says I reward myself with a coffee after the gym. So I'm trying to associate the gym with this. Wonderful. And that association and marrying the habits together, and as the reward is great.
Yeah, and I love the point about stretching. I think stretching or movement, when I get worked up, I think moving, stretching or deep breathing are smaller things that I can do that really may not take a lot of time. And I think I'll have to integrate that into my daily habits. I think I was better at it at one point in time. Sometimes now I'm not so great at it. I know I used to drink a lot of water whenever I used to get stressed or I used to get worked up. I used to just, drink a glass of water. It used to calm me. I used to get up and, just walk a few steps. It used to calm me. Over time, I think I've lost that rhythm. But, stretching, that point reminds me of that as well. Thank you for sharing that, and everything else, everybody, right? It really feels that, we're all on the same journey, and each of us, all of those small things. I think every time I'm hearing each of these comments or reading all of this, I'm telling myself this applies to me as well. Same, same pinch. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Moving on to the next part of the exercise, which is, as I said, it's just leading into everything that we've read and understood. It is just putting that in writing, or just evaluating and reflecting on it for ourselves. Definitely accountability, and I love what Paul mentioned about the accountability part that he's found, right? The three people accountability group, rather than it being a one person accountability. So definitely, are you comfortable, right? Is each of us comfortable declaring it, or sharing it with each other, right? I come in, at least let me try. I'm not very good at this. I've always tried to keep it within myself so long. Now this is going to be a change for me. I at least commit to becoming a calmer person, a more compassionate individual, I will prove it to myself by um, meditating uh, every day once I return from work or during my travel time, before I reach for the coffee. And I will maybe do some yoga um, before I start my cooking for the evening, because that's a must have. That has to be done. So maybe that's what I will do. That's what I'm, at least committing and declaring in front of all of you. Uh, and definitely, having an accountability partner or having that habit stacking where I'm going to tick mark these two habits every day is really going to help me in that visual journey. Paul?
Excellent. And I love how you put this, Vijay, into a pledge. Writing this down gives it power. I truly believe that writing things down, it makes things become a bit more power. So just quickly off the top of my head going through this, I commit to becoming more balanced and energized, and I will prove to myself by resting, relaxing immediately after I've turned off my laptop, and not to turn it back on again. Highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, if there are any comments that are, coming in, please do share.
Them through now, yeah. So Cindy is saying practicing responding instead of reacting. Adele's saying it will create more time balance and have more energy. And Donna is saying that she's becoming the person that she would want to turn to and call her friend. So some beautiful stuff coming in.
And
And
as I
that's it.
said, yeah, sorry. As I said, all of this is making me feel, yes, that's me too. That applies to me too. Paul, I'm not sure if you feel the same.
No, it does. And what it's making me want to do is invite people to connect, maybe start some accountability partners, some accountability groups from the work that Vijay has shared with you today. If you've got someone that's similar, someone you feel gelled and ready to, just create that small group. It doesn't have to be long, just a WhatsApp group, a quick 5-minute call once every 2 weeks. Set it yourself. But, there's lots of people working on the same page. We're all working on the same page. We're all looking to grow and become a better version of ourselves. So we're all here together. Let's help and support each other.
This is so wonderful. And just going towards the last part, which is going to be the visual thing, I think I'm going to take a printout of this now that I've, committed to all of you in this. Through this entire exercise, we are going to do a 30-day and then maybe extend it to a 60-day or a 90-day habit tracker, which helps us integrate that habit into our lives. And it's okay to miss some days. It's natural. It is going to happen. And then how long we can, keep it going is equally important. As much as this applies for habits that we want to inculcate, this equally applies for habits that we want to let go. For me, the sweet craving. So I think I have spoken about two habits or shared two habits. One is what I want to adopt, and one is what I want to let go. Paul?
No, brilliant. No, and I like that you've covered both. So you give an X if you haven't ate that or satisfied that sweet craving. Really great. And for those of you who are technically like apps, there's lots of apps that you can get out there as well. That I use an app as well to track the 30-day habit tracking. It's a really good way to keep on track. And I think Vijay made a really important point. And to reiterate James Clear in the book, The Atomic Habits, he talks about how missing isn't the problem. It's when that missing becomes consistent over a period of time. That's when we have a problem. That's when we're going to struggle with the habit. So missing the one day, just like you said, Vijay, you need to come straight back on and continue and try. Every day is fresh. Every day is new. It's a new opportunity. Yeah. And there's nothing coming in the comments box. It's quite quiet at the moment. So people must be reflecting.
Yeah, I think it's great, and that nearly draws us to the close of it. These are the 5 action items that we had, or the workbook that we had for habits, and it brings us to the close of this entire session, where all of us have reflected, we've shared, and it resonated. And like Paul mentioned, like we can create accountability groups with people we are comfortable with, right? Start an accountability group and just take it forward. Anything that helps us ease this journey, or share it with someone who we resonate with, or who we think we are comfortable sharing with. And if that person says try to get back on track, we will value that and really get back on track actually.
Oh, brilliant. No, thank you for sharing that, Vijay. And I want to say a huge thank you for this session, for pulling this together, for doing the pre-work, and for sharing this stage with me today. It's been really beautiful, and it kind of nicely knits everything that we've talked about over the past 2 days, from that first discussion around what success looks like for us, all the way through to our mindset, our values, our goals, who we want to become, to actually how we put that into a form of a system to help us reach there and become and reach that level of success in who we want to become. So a huge thank you, Vijaya. Now, if you are watching this on the replay, this is the last session of our Your Best Year 2026. But if you're watching it live, we do want to invite you to an extra session that we have in half an hour's time, which is 3 p.m. UK time. This is going to be on Zoom, so it's not going to be streamed live. It's available for everybody who is a member of our hub. If you're not a member of our hub, you can scan the QR code in the top left corner there, or take a screenshot and scan it after the live. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going on Zoom. It's going to be led by Vijaya again, and we're going to be having a bit of a vision board party. So everything we've learned, all the notes that we've captured over the past 6 sessions, over the 2 days, we're going to start to plug it in electronic vision board, and Vijaya is going to walk us through that and show some tools that we can use to do this. So a huge thank you, Vijaya, for your time. I look forward to seeing you, all of you who want to join us in this vision board party. And if you're watching on the replay, please do put your questions in the comments box. And a huge thank you to everybody who's been here live. There's so many comments coming through. It's been a really fantastic and energetic session. So thank you to everybody who's tuned in and who's watching on the replay. And we look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Thank you.